Hello, dear classmates and professors. My name is Alison Izquierdo. I'm 23 years old and I study in the pedagogy career in foreign language. And today I'm going to talk about verbal and non-verbal communication in the classroom and why is it so important around the classroom. Let's talk about the verbal communication. What is verbal communication? Verbal communication is everything we express with our words, or yes, with our words, like speaking, talking to friends, communicating issues, expressing how do you feel in a verbal way, using your words. In language, we use that a lot because we talk most of the time to communicate how do we feel, what do we need, or what are our desires in general. What are some examples of verbal communication, formal speeches, essays in class that you have to read out loud, debates? Informal, it could be just communication with friends, like gossiping, chatting around. About remote, you have phone calls or audio messages that we use a lot right now. And written, we can use it like emails or text messages or, little tweets maybe. And that's how you talk about verbal communication. Here I have some pictures showing uh, even discussions or just sharing thoughts could be verbal communication. Now, let's talk about the nonverbal communication. What about the nonverbal communication? Nonverbal communication is the way you express without the needing of using words. For example, you can express it with facial gestures, you can express it with posture, you can express it through fashion, even personal thoughts, some hypatics or touch. For example, when you hug someone, making eye contact, all that is a non-verbal way of communicating with your surroundings in your life, in the classroom, or outside of the classroom. Okay, now I want to have a little brief here to talk about how do you manage this in schools and why is it very important? Okay, pedagogical importance of the verbal and non-verbal communication things. First, we have the thought that says helps maintain classroom management. Of course, we all do speak and have rules in our classrooms when we want to when we want our students to participate or not participate or keep quiet or talk about anything in the classroom. And as a first way, we use the verbal communication to express and teach. Also reinforces meaning and support, okay? Uh, how do we do that? Telling our classmates, you're doing a great job, you're doing amazing. It's great that you're learning a lot, okay? It builds trust and connection with students, not only with verbal, but with non-verbal communication. When you tell them that they need to communicate with their body too, smile, in other cultures, we have, for example, the bows, when you bow under to someone to tell them that you respect this someone, when you hug your friends, when you seek for eye contact with your teacher to make them know that you are paying attention to the topic. It's also a way of communicating that you're expressing how do you feel or what do you feel at that moment. All right. My personal reflection to all this, as you can see here, I have it written right now, but I also wanted to mention that using both languages, both type of languages, verbal and non-verbal communication, it gives a structure and clarity to all the things that I have to say about it, because there's moments in life where you will not be able to communicate verbally and you will have to show your way or your students' way to express and how do they feel or what are their needs at the moment. I believe that it's important that we have a balance between those two, because one thing that I have learned through time is that it's not only useful to communicate with words, but expressing with our body also helps a lot to that. Also, if you have the experience and you have the opportunity, you can teach to people that do not have verbal communication ways to the learning process, like deaf people or mute people. They cannot communicate the same way as someone that has all their abilities fully developed for any reasons. In my opinion, and from my experience, I had the opportunity once to teach a person that was deaf. So at the very beginning, it was a bit complicated, but then I found a way to communicate with her, not only with words, but expressing using my hands, sign language. And not only that, you know, because it may that you don't know sign language, but you can express it in other ways. And will always be useful to learn both how to communicate verbally and non-verbally. And that's it for today. I hope that you have enjoyed this explanation of mine. It's made with love and self and respect for